Right, so here we are, Pecha Kucha 2, Usagi Yojimbo. There's some other stuff in here, but it is predominantly about Usagi Yojimbo. Ever since I saw this rabbit samurai standing next to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles over 20 years ago, I was kind of like, who's this dude? I didn't find out until this week. Usagi Yojimbo is a black and white comic book series from, I think, the 80s going into the 90s by Stan Sakai. I think there's a lot I can get from this in terms of his processes, his art style. So I'm gonna try and dwell on this quite a bit this week. So yeah, like I was saying, black and white, kind of cartoony style, but there's a lot of detailed cross-hatching and ink work in there, as well as historically accurate referencing. This directly goes to a project I have in mind that I really should start doing. Yeah, when he works in his research, it actually is in the dialogue. Like this is Usagi talking to a Buddhist monk who talks in depth about Zen and his flute and all of that kind of stuff. I don't know if I'd be so blunt with it, but you do what you do the way you do it. Here's another example of Usagi. There's not an awful lot of kind of white space in his page layout. It's not difficult to read up close, but from a distance, I'd be weary to kind of emulate such a style. Although I have actually specifically tried this week. Yeah, at the back of his books, he actually goes into depth about the research he's done and kind of where he's got his picture reference from. So it's a fantastic resource for me to use because I also want to look at feudal Japan as well. And he's taking things from National Geographic and all sorts. Yeah, so I did some kind of by eye stuff with a biro just when I was out and about. I haven't done reference work in a long time, and it does show. I'd started with a very kind of large character-driven image, which was too much, but I then just tried to look at one of his overall page layouts, and then the kind of the line weight he uses, the kind of cartoony style. It's pretty similar to the kind of thing I would look to do with my Seven Demons project. Yeah, here's the first of a tracing I did, which is the first page of one of the books. Actually going over his work line by line, I recognize a lot of the same techniques I already use. So it makes me feel I'm on the right track in terms of how to create imagery. He does an awful lot of kind of detail work. Yeah, that last one took half an hour. This took twice as long just to trace. It does help give me a sense of how long these things really take. Yeah, even tracing is quite labor intensive. Of course, I'm doing these things at a smaller scale than he would have done them originally. And talking about the narrative, one of the more interesting stories I read in the collection was about Usagi going home to his home village, where he discovered the man who taught him, who was actually a lion, wasn't dead even though he thought he was. So he had a happy reunion, but he also met his childhood sweetheart, who settled down with his one-time rival, who's now the village kind of leader, which was, yeah, quite a sad thing for him. And also in the next slide, there we are. They do a flashback to happier times to kind of show you why Usagi is so kind of hurt by the fact his sweetheart is no longer his anymore. It was a very moving story, and I'm probably going to do a return to home thing with my next stuff. Yeah, I also read this week Captain Britain, written by Paul Cornell, where Dracula plots to invade Great Britain and make it a vampire state. A great comic to just pick up and be surprised by. Brilliant artwork all through as well. Evidenced by the first double-page spread where Doctor Doom is talking to Count Dracula on the surface of the moon. Some comic books ask you to suspend your disbelief more than others, but I mean, this is just golden to me, and I love the kind of Jack Kirby-esque that Doom's got on. It's classic but modern. It's the kind of stuff I like. Another Paul Cornell book I picked up just by coincidence, Wolverine. This is, I think, part of the Marvel Now reboot. Good stuff, written well. Just wonderful stuff to emulate. Entertainment at the very least. Thor, also Marvel Now, so quite new. Quite a variety of one-shots collected in this volume. It's good to see Marvel still admires, sort of uses more cartoony styles. It makes me encouraged to think that I don't have to be Brian Bolland to get published. Thor, Sunlight and Shadows. This involves Thor stories that are very old, from the mid-90s, and they show their age in both the poor writing and the poor artwork. The industry's just moved forward too far. It's a pity not all old stuff is bad, but this is an example of stuff that isn't really worth seeking out. It was so bad I had to go read my own Loki, which was painted by a real painter and written by a real writer who writes real books. It's got very broad themes that would appeal to people of any sophistication, and the artwork is just glorious. Thumbs up, double thumbs up. I also read this Age of Ultron versus Marvel Zombies. Cash in as it is, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. The artwork's great, the story isn't bad, and because it's a dystopic alternative reality, the writers are allowed to use character development in a way that they usually can't with people like Tony Stark and Captain America. I will definitely be not doing those kind of long-term Batman characters. I need to have a beginning, middle and end with any character arc I do. And that brings us to the end of this Pecha Kucha. Okay, see you next time.